All right, guys, so let's get into the debt ceiling, whether or not this is going to stick around or are we going to see a default on this going forward. Some people are actually looking at this right now, maybe not making it through the night. We'll break that down for you. The effect on how markets may respond, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, we'll break all that down for you guys. I think you're going to like it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, if you are not part of our Crypto Power Index or our mastermind group, make sure and jump in now because we've got the summer of savings that is happening now. It's 25% off. And the cool thing is we are doing a ton of crypto prizes, both in Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum. We'll be doing each month members, and we'll do some NFT drops as well. So giving away a Solana phone, all that good stuff. Anyway, cool thing is you get all those services now 25 off through the next 3 months. So make sure and join in on each one of the giveaways. Any member that's already in the program, you're already registered for the drawing, so we'll be able to look at that. Let's get into a couple of notices here. This, of course, latest on the U.S. debt ceiling. This is kind of a CNN tracker update. A couple of things. If the House bill passes the bill as expected, it would need to be passed by the Senate before it can actually be sent to the president and be signed into law. So it's not necessarily a done deal. The House representatives are set to vote on this right now. So we'll probably see that later tonight. And then Chuck Schumer has also told lawmakers to prepare for the possibility of votes Friday or even over the weekend. So this could get stretched out, which I think also will play into whether or not Bitcoin continues to see a little bit of a downtrend on sentiment. And then a couple of other aspects. Senate Majority Leader also warns the chamber that any delay in passing the debt limit poses an unacceptable risk. That's normal because I think right now McCarthy's job is pretty much on the chopping block if this deal doesn't get done. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell also echoed Schumer saying that when the bill reaches the Senate, he will be happy to support it. But you can kind of see the Dems don't necessarily like being held hostage. They go on to talk about this. Also, Democratic Rep. Familia Jayapal basically said that she will vote against the bill. And this is going to be interesting. See how this plays out. There's a lot that we'll show you here and today because this has a factor on how Bitcoin will respond. Now, I'd love to get your feedback on if the debt ceiling does not get signed into law tonight or passed tonight for the president to sign into law. How do you think the market would respond? Do you feel like Bitcoin will continue to see a little bit more of a choppy downward trend? Or do you think we'll be in preparation for an actual move up? Love to get your feedback. I'll give you mine toward the end of the video. Here was a quick tweet here by Squawk Box, and I think there were some good elements in reference to whether or not they have the votes or not. So listen in on this one.
Bill advancing from a key rules committee last night, passing a hurdle towards a vote tonight. If the bill passes in the House, it will then go to the Senate, where it will need 60 votes to pass. Joining us now, Financial Services Committee Chairman Patrick McHenry. He was a chief debt ceiling negotiator for the House Republicans. Congressman, saw you yesterday on, one of the competing networks. And you said some things that made a lot of sense. Basically, the perfect, don't let it be the enemy of the good. And, some incremental progress here is, if you go to a negotiation and you don't have the White House or the Senate, you're lucky to get anything, really, I guess, unless you threaten default, which no one wants to do. But we don't have 15 votes this time. You want me to call you chairman? I think Chairman Mao ruined that. I'm going to call you congressman. How's that? Is that better? We don't have 15. Don't Patrick. Do it. The markets won't sit around for 15 votes on this.
No, I think we have the votes to pass this today, and I think that'll project.
That'll be the question mark right there, if they actually have the votes to pass this today. And I think that's the scenario that we're going to paint out for, because I don't necessarily think that they actually have them. They may be scrambling at the last hour trying to pull this off. So this is going to be interesting. First of all, they kind of talked about this further. Hey, it's going to get done. This is topping from Eric Cantor on passing the debt ceiling. But the admin was kind of caught flat-footed today. They also made the assumption that Speaker McCarthy would never be able to rally the troops to pass the bill. That's the big question mark. Remember that the House has been kind of gunning for McCarthy's position for quite some time. If they don't get this deal done in the timely fashion, that may give them the ammunition, maybe to dislodge the speaker. We'll see. So the question is who's dropping it? A couple of points here. You can kind of see this is a breakdown of what it basically boils down to on kind of the 1.5 versus the 4 trillion. This is GOP dealing kind of in the capacity of trying to get this all done. There's a lot here, and of course, again, we still might see more coming at it. But remember, we had 131 billion cut to annual spending next year to shrink the federal deficit. Strong work requirement for SNAP, so they held in a lot of those things. I won't go into the detail of everything here, but essentially the Republicans, I would say at least one thing, they brought Biden to the negotiating table. If you'll remember, he was on record saying he would not negotiate this. And in that fact, the GOP pretty much did win that. And a lot of the things that were basically conceded by the White House pretty much played into that as well. Here was a couple of Republican colleagues that says do not vote for the deal. So you've got some Republicans that are saying still that we're not going to do it. We also have Democrats saying that we will do it. So that's the balance of power that we're really getting into. Why is this all so important? And what it boils down to, guys, is this. When you look at two scenarios playing out, one you're going to see most likely once this gets passed is you're going to see a micro pump on the markets. It might be a nice little mini rally. Then I think we're going to start to see the reality setting in, which is liquidity issues in the market. We'll start to see challenges because there's a lot of cuts here. And there's also some delayed timing. Even though that the spending is up from last year slightly, it's pretty much flat. So that in itself, even with the debt ceiling raise, may not necessarily put the markets back into a mix of being able to recover. That starts to lean us into the problem, which is a recession. So all that is where it kind of boils down to. Further into here, this was more problems in the market right here. Goldman Sachs says the Treasury Department will have to quickly raise $1 trillion if and when the debt ceiling deal is approved. So they got to move fast. Liquidity will be drained from the market to purchase these treasuries. That's the problem that we're talking about. And then funds will flow out of stocks, bank accounts to purchase this debt if investors want it. So that's where we're dealing with the scenario of the trade-off of dollars and where will they be going? Will they be going into crypto? Will they go into other risk assets? I don't think they will be. And I think that's the part that we have to be on the lookout for right now in terms of a potential bearish sign moving down. And some of you guys have been watching our CPI data and questioning why is Bitcoin dropping when we had the debt ceiling thing kind of looming and we were seeing that downtrend on Bitcoin. I think now you're starting to get the picture here that does have a little bit of an impact. Now, could we get a recovery bump or a little bit of a slice there? Sure, we could. Here's Rep. Dan Bishop. He says that McCarthy himself, who made the call to increase the debt ceiling by $4 trillion until January 25, that was a big give. It wasn't even asked for by the Democrats, and he just pretty much handed an unlimited. But this gets back to my point that I talk about DC all the time. The Dems and the Republicans are really on the same page. At the end of the day, the American people lose on this more so than anybody, and I think the global economy also loses on this because we are writing checks we can't cash. And the idea of pushing this down into a next 10 decade to 2 or 3 decades down to where we cannot recover from this as a country, that's a problem that I think a lot of people are really going to be faced. Now, that's the question mark of what our next president might do, whether that's Biden or DeSantis or Trump or whichever route you guys are setting on. All of this plays into the future of investment strategies. That's why it's important, and even technology to a certain extent. Republican Ralph Norman also is complaining he can't read the 99-page bill. So the debt ceiling in 72 hours. Meanwhile, the Trump tax scam passed by Republicans was a 500-page bill that received votes within hours in the same night. I don't get this. This is the other problem that we continue to see is just our own lawmakers not being able to put the effort forth. This is another Republican that basically says, no, I'm not going to do that. This is Nancy Mace. So that's another Republican out of it. So this is the real question. Does it get passed tonight? Here's another one. House Democrat Catherine Clark says the GOP needs Democratic votes to end the ceiling crisis. I agree with that. She argues also that it shows extremism and kind of this ideological, problem that we have within the Republican Party as a whole. Listen, this is politics. It's the normal mess that we're dealing with here in the United States, but it has so much impact on how all of this flows into the market going forward. Just to show you how slim this margin is on getting this into law is right here. That's the balance of power right now on Dems and Republicans holding tight. And if you lose some of the Republicans, which we've already shown could happen, you have to fill it with blue seats. And that's the problem that I think we are facing right now. So if we don't get it passed and it gets pushed into Thursday or maybe even to the last hour on Friday, how do you guys think the markets will respond? Let me know in some comments down below. A couple other things to be just remembering is the Freedom Caucus, okay? Let me kind of zoom in on this right there. That's the Freedom Caucus Republicans. These are the guys that essentially could throw a wrench into this whole thing, which could cause a very intriguing way that we may see some last-minute deal-making to get this done. That's what I'm watching right now, because that could really affect not only investment markets, but also could affect long-term aspects of how we govern here in the United States. In other words, giving up a lot of things that maybe we shouldn't be giving up. Also, don't forget, this is either going to come live tonight if we get the House passing on this. I think it's at 8 o'clock. That says 7, but I think it's 8 o'clock tonight. So be on the watch out for that. Put some questions in over on the sidebar. I know you guys have been asking about, some of the projects that we should be looking at. Where are we going with some of our own investments? Is there some opportunity here right now? If we do get a passing of the bill, will we see some nice little pumps on some tokens, whether it's Ethereum or even Bitcoin running up to maybe plus 28, 29? We'll see. Nothing is looking good in these numbers. This is James Mager, basically says, this is talking about China's PMI numbers. China's manufacturing slump also as the economic recovery continues to slow down and investors are starting to dump stock. This again gets back into the whole issue of how liquidity will play into this market. I just had Lynn Alden on the show the other day. Watch her video with me, because we get into this very issue of how liquidity will affect global markets and how some of the scenarios that are playing out in the banking system are still very, very front and center. So this again affects risk assets, but it will give us an opportunity to do something with Bitcoin, gold, other things like that in the near future, possibly as we lead into the recession. Leading economic indicators are now contracting at levels that have a 100% hit rate for recession, meaning we're going to hit it. It's going to happen. And the question is how does all this play into it with lawmakers? And there's also some other things happening within the market, because you still look at the tech side of it. If you watch some of our videos on the whole issue with Apple and what's going to happen with Meta, go back and check those videos out, because I think tech is starting to separate away from this market. Now, granted, it will be affected to a certain extent, but it may be one of the few plays that are in the markets to make as we start to see this come out. Question will be, is liquidity, and how does that play out? So it's going to be the stronger projects. Goldman Sachs now considering another round of job cuts. This would be the third in under a year. And this is a problem because this is starting to affect all of Wall Street. And that's another scenario that shows we're getting deeper into that cycle problem or cycle issue that could get us into the next recession, and which I believe we will hit. Question is whether it's going. I don't think it's going to be a light recession. I think it's either going to be a moderate recession or we're going to see some deep cuts going on this. So it's just all of the things that are playing into the situation right now. Binance shocks employees now with sudden layoffs. Binance, we've already seen a ton of different scenarios that have been playing out with Binance's woes globally. But right now, 8,000 reportedly, total of around 8,000 employees. Rumors suggest that a portion of the layoffs in June was approximately 20%. Let me zoom in on that so for you guys. You can't really see it. They, of course, blame overall market conditions, significant price declines, etc. SEC's continuous crackdown in the U.S. is not slowing, so it's likely we could see problems with Binance U.S. Remember that they've just dislodged from Canada, And then also Binance had the issue with the Australian dollar here. Actually, today is the last day you can get Australian dollars out of Binance right now, and then they convert to Tether. So not looking good for the one black sheep out there in the crypto side. All right, so let's go here. Blockchain analytics is also Nansen cutting workforce by 30%. This is a big number. I think a lot of this is bloat, because I look at it for what we're doing, and we're not cutting jobs, but we are looking at actually how do we grow. But I think a lot of these companies just grew at the wrong time, and it's all timing of how the market. Now, could we withstand a recession going, and not us, but in general business, withstand a recession that goes into a long recession, like beyond 8 months? If this clips into Q3 or Q4, you're talking about mid next year before we start to see signs. Remember, that's when wealth is made in these downtrend markets like what we're talking about. The question, again, also flows into whether or not Hong Kong will still have an effect. Remember, with Hong Kong opening it up tomorrow, June 1st, is not necessarily meaning that retail is going to be able to rush in and start buying crypto. So don't get that. It's where they're going to be able to start registering, meaning exchanges, et cetera, are going to be able to start putting this in place to where crypto can be. But that still will have a narrative that is a good one. But with that narrative, there's been a couple of things that are starting to percolate, and I think you guys know this. We talked about it a little bit, but Hong Kong and the UAE central banks now are collaborating on crypto rules and fintech development. I also listened to the CEO of OKX, Asian marketplace, and she was very confident that what they were seeing is continued control mechanisms being implemented into the crypto cycles, and within crypto technology as this plays out within China. Hong Kong has been often a test bed for Beijing. So we still could, even though some people see this as a positive, it may end up being a net negative for the citizens of China in the future. So I don't know. We'll watch and see how that goes. I don't think we're going to see any changes coming out of China. I think it's still going to be the same kind of scenario. Crypto trading will be open on retail investors. I don't think this is accurate, in terms of whether or not we'll see open retail investors or not. Coinbase CEO says, this is Brian Armstrong, says U.S. crypto policy will end up benefiting China. Armstrong emphasizes that crypto's purpose extended beyond its utility in digital payment. We already know that. If you're following our channel, you guys know that. That's some of the things that we cover quite often here. Is the technology opportunity is going to be huge here for both Web3, the conversion of Web2 to Web3. We talk about that a lot in how NFTs, digital collectibles, things like that will play into businesses, because it's going to apply to loyalty systems and customer data and ID, which is going to be the future. Then you get into VR and gaming, XR with Apple and what they're doing. Now you kind of put the picture together of all the potential tech opportunity and what we could be losing here if we don't get regulation under control. So a lot of that is going to be a problem for sure. All right, so we're going to get into the charts a little bit, and on Bitcoin, as you guys are seeing a little bit of a rise here. This is on the 5. Let me go over here to the 4 hour, because this is one that everybody's kind of been looking at. This was the little bit of the downtrend that we had tracked on the CPI. A lot of people did not believe it was going to do this, and pulling right back here to the 26.9, under to the 27 mark, and with the debt ceiling looming. And I think the sentiment data was just right on here. Now, could we get a little bit of could be the beginning of a run if and when we get that passing of the debt ceiling tonight. ETH, though, has been taking a little bit sharper pullback. Also had a little bit further fall in terms of sentiment data on most of that. And as you can see, most of the market over there on the right-hand side in the red, pretty much everything. Phantom on a big loser right there. We've got Atom down 3% right now. And then if you look at others, there's GMX down 4%. And let's take a look at some of the metaverse tokens. There is Arweave down 5%. And Sushi Swap down almost 4%, almost 5%. Quite a bit. You can kind of see the markets prepping for this concern. And then there's Conflex, again, because of the PMI data coming out of China, seeing Conflex really kind of crater there. We're going to take a look at the poll real quick, and then we'll get to some questions, cover those for you guys today. All right, will the House pass the debt ceiling bill tonight? Ooh, you guys are all in. We're kind of 50-50. I felt good about it until I started looking at all of the Republicans and all of the Democrats that were still kind of holding out. And then you throw in, Matt Gaetz and his caucus. We could see it. And then you still have AOC and her little, group that could still play into this in a final decision, meaning last minute changes, which means a push. And a push is going to be bad for markets. So we'll see how all that plays out. All right, a few questions here. Flashmac, how can 8,000 be working on Binance? Well, I think that's a global number, but I don't know. That's a big number. It is. Even the gold bull, Peter Schiff, is all in for crypto. I don't know if I believe that, but he did actually step in on this. But I feel like we've had Peter on the show before, and I'm going to try to get him back to talk about this because he and I got going back and forth. Paul, did short Nvidia? No, I have not shorted Nvidia right now. It is a stock I hold. But I look at Nvidia differently, because some people, you guys are trading this for short term. I'm not, for stocks, I long term hold stocks. I've got Chipotle I've held for 10 years. I've got Apple long term, Microsoft long term. I look at these as very long term investments, and I'm saying in excess of 5 years. Anytime you get into a blue chip stock, those are not flippable because the market caps just don't move. Nvidia is a little different because of the things that we're seeing in AI. But sure, could it back down? Yes, but it's $1 trillion market cap, guys. Yes, it's bumping the ceiling on that now. But I'm more visioning what the long term for Nvidia could be. Now, I will say this. Lynn Alden made a very good point with me the other day, and that is there's still a risk scenario that plays into this. Should we end up in any kind of supply chain challenges like a war in Taiwan, then I would be shorting all of those, getting out of those stocks, because obviously Taiwan Semiconductor is a big player there, and along with Nvidia would be hit hard in something like that. So that's something to be playing against. You want to hedge your bet, which means diversification in your portfolio. You guys know that. I don't have to teach you anything about that stuff. All season will not happen till 2024. I might be in agreement with you there, Personal Freedom. Hong Kong is nothing dumpling. Is a nothing dumpling. I'm kind of in agreement with you a little bit on this. I would agree. Hong Kong opens license applications to the rails. Yep, we talked about that. Kennedy is pro crypto. I just don't think this guy's got it to pull it off. He is within the Dem party. He is a potential, but I think Biden gets the nomination to go against Trump or DeSantis, one of those two. We'll see. They will do it, not a matter of, yes, I agree. Yes, they'll have to. It's just a matter of what they give up. That's really what it boils down to. Because right now, the Dems believe they got nothing, all right? They got nothing. This is all about negotiation. Everything is all about, it's not about that it won't be passed. This is about negotiation of what you got to give up, which has long-term effects on markets. Whew. Looking like all roads leading to Bitcoin sooner or later. I agree with that. I like Bitcoin on the long term. Green Day says U.S. needs to get their stuff together. Debt ceiling. Yeah, no kidding, man. We are the laughing stock of the world right now, is what I feel like. Not only with crypto regulation, just not pulling it together. Yes, a war would break that debt ceiling. But remember, defense spending was cut out of that. There might be a reason why, guys. So just pay attention to what's happening in Ukraine. Pay attention to what's happening in the Pacific Rim. This is all, when you think about the military-industrial complex, that's where a lot of this kind of spending goes. And that has effects on markets. So all that. Yes, if we get into a war with China, well, a war in Taiwan, yeah, our portfolio will be the least of our worries. All right, guys, tell me what you think. Do you believe that we're going to see a pump once the bill gets confirmed? And if not, why? Let me know down below. Just click some comments down there. Give me your feedback. Always love to get you guys in and learn more about what you're thinking in the marketplace. If you're not part of our Diamond Circle, make sure and jump in. It's a free way to get involved into the crypto community here on PBN, but also into a lot of our tech coverage, VR, as well as Web3, all the things that we cover within that podcast, all additional content that we do over there. If you guys want to catch me, it is out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.